All right. Welcome to the Three Wise Men podcast. We are three educators from the DMV area, and we are here to bring new content from a Black male educator's perspective. Um, I, along with Coach White, uh, Mr. Ingram, my name is Mr. Savoy, and welcome to our pilot episode. And we hope to make the hopefully, gentlemen, we're going to make this thing interesting. And please, if you enjoy this content, enjoy talking, uh, uh, enjoy what we're talking about, please like and subscribe. And so, gentlemen, I think what I wanted to start out with talking about is just one to give us a little bit of background, introducing who we are, why we chose to be in this space, what made us choose to do this. So I'm gonna start with you, Coach White.
I guess I'm the senior statesman here.
Yeah.
My name is Charles White Jr., 63-year-old from Buckingham County, Virginia. Uh, I think I'm in this space more than anything as a result of my dad. My dad was also a teacher. Was a building trade teacher. Uh,
Really, I actually didn't know this.
yes, for 33 years. Buckingham County, Fluvanna County, and ultimately ended retiring in Prince Edward County. Uh, Always had me interested in history. My dad was very, very influential in the South Side, Virginia area, and pretty much all over the state of Virginia, with his civil rights activism during that time. Uh, my dad is quite legendary in our area because of his civil rights uh, work. Uh, and I guess over the years, seeing the students of his former students stopping by the house
Mm-hmm.
and talking to him, and seemingly all of them have the same story. My dad's nickname was Chief, and they all seem to say, Chief, thank you for steering me in the right direction. Thank you for making me realize what was actually waiting for me. And I kind of feel that the three of us in our capacity at Gwen Park are kind of falling into that path. It's incumbent upon us to get our folks back on track. And we are the vanishing breed in education. Uh, to have the three of us able to get together and actually, pursue a podcast is a remarkable feat because the black educator is a dying breed, brother. Dying
Less
breed.
than 2% now. It used to be 2%. Now it's less than
And
2% now.
that's sad, because I can remember again, growing up a country boy in Southside Virginia, there were plenty of male teachers, plenty of black male teachers. Everybody was a teacher. My family, my dad was a teacher. My aunt uh, was a teacher in Newark for 40 years. Several cousins, several neighbors, church members, everybody was involved in education. And, and again, I'm a 60s baby, so I got to experience the first 3 years of my education in segregation, which was a very, very rewarding experience. It's something that I've always fall back on to kind of give me a little guide, a little measuring stick of where we are right now.
Mhm.
Uh,
I think I one of the reasons why and I feel like Ingram, you brought this idea to me is I looked online and I don't see a lot of I don't see us on social media.
right.
Right. There's actually not a for teachers in general. There's just not a lot of us in this space talking about what it's like for teachers in the 21st century,
Yeah.
in this time and space. Um, we don't hear our voices, and it feels like sometimes education has come under attack
Mhm.
in the world we live in today. And so my thinking with this podcast is I wanted to I wanted this podcast to be a place, we talk about safe spaces for students. I wanted this to be a safe space for educators. Um, all educators, the black male educators, but black educators in general,
Mhm.
right? As we live as we live and we work in a multicultural society, um, and so that I think is something that resonates to me. We have combined over 70 years worth of experience
Mhm.
in education. Now, Ingram, what ended up bringing you to the school we are currently at? What was your? Can you talk to me a little bit about what your journey has been like to get up to where you are
Um, Thank you, bro. Um, Man, it's been one hell of a ride, especially coming from Martinsville and Henry County. Wasn't a lot there back in Martinsville. We were a textile-driven community, furniture factories, and our school system then was built to prepare you for work in those spaces.
now?
So it really wasn't designed for, especially my side of town, West End. Mr. White would tell you a little something about the West End. Fair Street was different back then. And still, that's where you go to roll up your windows and lock your doors. And that's what they used to say. But anyway, if you're from that side of town, you were expected to go to work in the factories.
Mm,
And from that point in my life, I knew that I wasn't going to be working in no factory. And because I had tried it and it didn't work so well, worked in distribution, and you load the trucks and things like that, moving produce and moving product from factory to warehouse, warehouse to factory. It was just something that I just knew I just was not going to do. And thank God Almighty for athletics, because that was my ticket out. I thought I was going to go.
you did track, right?
Yeah, I did. I ran track, played football, wrestled in high school, and thank God for that, because my grades were putrid. I hated school with a passion. It's ironic that when I share that, how much I hated school, that I've been in school all my life. um, through 12, through college, and now a 30 plus year career. And it looks like I just can't escape school at this point in my life. But so I found myself teaching because of my experience in juvenile corrections, spending time in group homes and detention centers over the years. Spent 5 or 6 years doing that. And I knew then that if I'm going to help these youngins, I better get on the other side of the wall. You
Indeed.
want to catch them before they end up behind the wall. And but you can help them out of that, because that was our job. Either get them ready to be locked up in a real secure facility, or we were getting them ready to come back into the world and try to survive. So we were kind of that go between for a lot of young men. And it was tough to see the kind of conditions these young people were coming from. And I think that's a huge motivator for me when I see young men, young ladies go through the trauma that we know that they are going through. And I learned something real quick working in the group homes.
Mm,
Um, a lot of kids are in those group homes not because of anything they did. It just may be that the environment that they're living in is just not safe for them, and they've been removed. And a lot of kids come to us from those situations, and I think just working in those environments prepared me for the schools that we're working in right now. I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. So my way into uh, the public schools, charter schools, and traditional public schools came by way of detention centers and group homes. In my own life, of a kid who just flat out hated school with all his soul,
And it's just amazing to me that I'm sitting here right now doing a podcast
Tell me about it.
about
Tell me
education,
about it.
trying to figure out how to help these youngers get through.
Tell me about it.
Full circle.
Ain't no way in hell anybody would ever thought that
Yeah.
Willie Douglas Ingram Jr. would be doing this today.
Right.
Hell, I didn't think I would be, to be honest with you. But here we sit, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
indeed.
now you also, coach. You also have a bit of a corrections background as
Yes, I
well.
do. Very interestingly, I was a very afforded a very unique experience in my teaching career. Uh, of course, I never thought I would be a teacher, even though my dad was a teacher. Uh, I started off my career working for private industry, company out of Richmond, a food distributorship, Rich Food Incorporated. And it took me about 2 years to finally realize that that corporate world was not for me.
Mm,
It was too cutthroat. Uh, you are called upon to do things that a lot of times are just not right. And, either you're with the company or you're not.
hmm
And, the corporate side was just not for me. And for that, I became a social worker uh, for in my hometown, Buckingham County. Again, a very unique experience. Uh, and by chance, a friend of mine was teaching at the correctional center in Buckingham, and she said she was leaving, transferring. She was going to North Carolina, and said, you should apply for my job. And I had uh, previously worked with her as a volunteer in her classroom at the prison for about a year
hmm
prior to me becoming a social worker. Uh, and I took her up on the offer. And once I started working there, again, it was a very unique experience. Something I wouldn't trade for the world. It's just the feeling of being locked up, even though you do have freedom. But, for all intent and purpose, you're locked up for 8 hours. You can't move, you can't do anything uh, behind those walls and behind those bars. Uh, it was very rewarding because, again, that was where I was able to do my student teaching. And, the state of Virginia allowed me to have my 3 years of teaching experience uh, actually inside of a prison. Best students in the world. I didn't have to deal with parents. I didn't have to deal with PTA,
hmm
school board, anything like that. Uh, some of the best students you would ever want to encounter. But I often said that it was sad that prison is often when people finally take their education serious, and usually to a bad. And I had a little experience with the women's correction, but almost to a man and woman, they will all say that their problem started when they stopped going to school. They stopped taking education serious. That's when their problem started. I worked for the Virginia Department of Corrections Education for 10 years, and I also worked for the Enrico Department of Juvenile Services for 8 years. So I kind of have almost 20 years of that corrections
hmm
education, and like my brother said, it really opens your eyes, but it's a very rewarding, and you can see that, like you said, I need to get out there. I got to stop folks from coming here, and
I,
it's a situation, and we all see it
yeah.
that prison is downplayed now. It's almost like, it's just another place to go to have, all your boys are there, and you go there, and, message, and I'm sure the message is always from YouTube that was they desolate. Oh my God. It's not good about being in prison, and To get this as your book, it kind of
Mm.
bothers me that too many of our young men feel that it's a badge of honor to go to prison. Now you go to prison for many different things, but to accept that as your home, your house, and
Yeah, what?
you know, this is where I belong. It's just it's crazy. And I feel our role is to now do everything we can to stop this perpetuation of you know law breaking and criminality is no big deal. You know.
I got you. So, and by the way, I meant to say this at the beginning. I said, obviously, if you've been listening so far, you're at this point in the pod. Hopefully, you enjoyed what we said. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to continue bringing you more content as we move forward. Um, my experience was a little bit different in that, obviously, I don't come from a corrections background. Mine was very um, customer service oriented. I found teaching very late in my life. Like obviously I haven't been teaching nearly as long as you both have. And I don't know that I was driven, at least not initially, by a desire for, from the standpoint of, oh, I see us here and I need to make sure we don't end this way. Certainly that's become part of it. But I bounced around from a variety of different jobs and different things. We're all HBCU educated here, uh, but but
No.
I
Mhm.
come from a lot of variety of customer service jobs, trying to find, I guess, where I fit in the world.
Yeah.
So um, maybe to that extent, some people can resonate with the idea of just trying to figure out who you actually are, who you're going to be in this world. And much like y'all, I've been trying to escape school for seemingly forever, right? And I worked in these customer service jobs where I would have to explain stuff. I worked with a financial company. I've worked at a payroll company. I've worked at cable companies. And, all these customer service jobs, most of them are all calling. But, I realized very early on, like, no one calls these places because they're having a good day. It's
Mhm.
always because something's wrong. And so I'd end up having to, when these people would call, I'd end up having to talk them off the ledge from with everything. Why is my money not where it's supposed to be? Or, when I worked at an insurance company, they would be like, why am I getting charged for XYZ thing when I was told it was covered or blah, 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 or this thing I got, is this a bill? And so I took all these jobs, and of course, there would be different kinds of trainings for understanding how to connect with people, under stress when they call. And so I would have to, de stress these people, calm them down, and then explain to them, like, oh, this is why, this is XYZ thing that you got, or this is how we can fix your cable, or whatever the case is. Right. And so inevitably, people would say, you're really good at this. Like, you should. It's like, you ever thought about being a teacher? When I worked at a financial aid company, I would handle people's 403Bs, which is what teachers generally, get with tax exempt organizations and public schools. So people would say, "You're really good at explaining this stuff. You should be like, you should be a teacher like us." I'd be like, "Man, that is crazy talk. Why would I ever want to do that?" But then one day, trying to figure this out, I heard enough people, and I guess God decided, look, this is it. You're going to be a teacher. Like
Mhm.
this is where you're meant. And it's funny, we're all HBCU educated. I also went to an Ivy League school to train to become a teacher, but I find my customer service background training I use so much more with our students today and the unique struggles they face
Mhm.
than I did. from my Ivy League education in this space. And so, and I was wondering how has you guys have both been doing this obviously a bit longer than I have. How has your like pedagogy changed over the course of from where you started in the beginning? How is like understanding how to teach um young urban environment, how has that changed, if at all? Has it has teaching changed now from for you, the way you interact with students different now than in today's 21st century than maybe the way it was even 20 years ago?
You jump on that first, because you background than I do, my brother.
I've had the chance to teach in several different places, from Southern Virginia to Ramstein, Germany, to Los Angeles, California, to Washington, D.C., and now finally here in Prince George County, Maryland. And one thing I found, that this constant and consistent: kids are kids.
Yeah.
I don't care where they're from, the background, the income level. Kids are kids. And one of the things I share with the students all the time, and fun, of course, but I tell them I don't trust them. I'm like, you got a teen in your age, you can't be trusted. And they get a laugh out of it, but I also tell them, but I love you though. And that's the one thing that hasn't changed over the course of 30 plus years. If you can develop a relationship with these kids, that's the one thing that has not changed. The only thing has truly changed, in general, would be how your content is delivered to the students. We're using more tech now than we did in the past. But in terms of relationship building,
Mm.
that has not changed whatsoever. In fact, it may be more crucial today than in the past, to develop relationships, because kids only learn from people that they actually trust. That's just kind of my opinion on that.
Learn is an act of trust.
And if they don't trust you, they don't believe that you have their best interest at heart. I mean, you might as well just be, spitting into a fan set on high.
Mm.
It's just not going to happen for you as a teacher. So somehow, some way, you got to figure it out, to build these relationships, because if you don't, it's going to be a struggle. And so, if there's one thing that hasn't changed, relationship building. One thing that has changed, is the method by which we push the content out to students. So yeah.
And I would say too, again, beginning my teaching career in a loveless environment,
Mm.
and again, providing, a sense of worth a lot of times to inmates, I think. And, again, that all revolves around relationship building. Uh, you know, I look back on a lot of the men that I came in contact with. I still think about them, and I
Mhm.
wonder how they're doing, what they're doing. Uh, I think what I could do for them. You know, whatever I could. I think I really had a wonderful relationship. I would often joke that, if they were ever, Buckner Correctional Center was involved in a riot. They said, we're going to walk this out, and that was going to be me, Uh, I think, it's one thing that I've noticed, in general with us, the three of us at least, and the other people involved in our department I can speak for. One message to kids, I don't take myself that serious. So you can laugh with me, you can joke with me, you can come talk to me, and I'm here to help you. My job as a teacher is to pass students. And when I say that, I often harken back to a teacher I had at Virginia State University. Uh, who often bragged that she had failed her next door neighbor's kid. We like it, you so good for that, you know. And so I think, getting kids to understand that, hey, your teachers are human. All right. We have hearts and minds just like you all, but you have to understand the situation we're dealing with. My job is to educate you. And for all intents and purpose, you're not very smart. And if you listen, if you model, if you seek, uh, the good things in life, along with a little guidance from your teachers, you'll turn out okay. And I think a lot of times it gets lost. What has been lost over the years are the interactions that we can have and those that we can't have. Uh, that's just something that's simple. And being a coach, uh, years ago when I first started out, coach, I just retired this past year after 23 years.
Mhm.
Uh, I used to give kids rides home after
Now,
practice.
now,
Car loaded down. And, and again, we're talking rural Virginia. A lot of kids didn't participate in sports because they didn't have rides. And, again, I was a bachelor at that time. And I was like, hey, you come to practice, I'll make sure you get home. And I would have 6 or 7 kids in my car sitting in laps and all of that, making sure that they were able to get home after practice. I remember one of my coaches, Mr. Avery Goodwin, was my track coach in Buckingham. And I just remember asking him one day, hey, coach, let me borrow your truck, go down to the Tasty Freeze to get a hamburger. And without hesitation, he reached in his pocket and gave me his key. And I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I went to the Tasty Freeze, got a hamburger, offered to buy him one. He didn't want one. Got the hamburger, came back, gave his key. Now, I'm sure there are kids out there that would do the exact same thing given that situation today. But I just feel maybe uh,
do you have students who you feel like if you gave them keys, you could trust? That?
there are a few that I feel, but the majority of them, for whatever reason that I hold, I wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
And again,
Yeah.
it's just the environment that we live in. Again, I give my keys to a kid, and he goes right across the street, has an accident. More than likely, the family's gonna sue me.
Yeah,
And I'm just trying to be nice. So we don't allow ourselves to have those type relationships. Uh, where we would, just simply want to give a kid a ride, but
yeah,
we we have to say no.
there are red lines that have to be drawn in
Mhm.
this relationship building business. I mean, how many times do we see teachers in the news having inappropriate relationships with students? And so, if we're going to be school dad, and I like to consider myself school dad,
Right.
we have to walk upright in front of these kids,
Yeah.
and we do. But yeah, I don't have one, bro, that I would trust or don't to my truck. My son upstairs.
Well, that's because your truck is your baby. I
Okay, listen.
It's not necessarily that you have done that act of giving the keys and having someone do. It's just the fear of what could go wrong, and it would only take one time to destroy everything that you work for.
Man, I have given my key to students to go in and unlock my door, my room, so they get the gear out of that.
Mhm.
But no, that's not the extent of it right there. But the lines have to be drawn. I mean, you see it over and over again. These types of relationships is just throw all manner of bad light on our profession. These folks just can't seem to figure out how to draw that bright line, and I think that's why we have the respect that we do and have had over the years, because kids can see the line. They know that they're dealing with, how should I say it, a grown ass man,
Exactly, bro.
and they know it, and we carry it like that, and I think they appreciate that. Otherwise, I don't think they would bother to come to us for advice if they didn't think that we were a good source of advice. And I think that's because how we carry our game, how we run our business in the schoolhouse. So I think that's huge. Just make sure that line is bright, and it's bright as anybody can see it.
Is that the best part of teaching for you right now?
What's that?
Just like being that person, being able to be that person if need be
It
for
feels good, you know.
I'm a nerd, man. I'm a content guy, and I love the content that I teach. I really do. Uh, I mean, I feel I could teach that doggone table if it sat still long enough.
Mhm,
I just enjoy the content
mhm.
and making sense of it to people, and the fact that I'm able to use that content to help kids see the world in such a way where they can make sense of it while I use the content to do it. It just makes it better.
right, right. We're all social studies teachers
Mhm.
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
and so um, that presents, you know, interesting challenges in the world we live in right now,
yeah.
and the kind of things that kids see uh, in the world today. Obviously, there's, we're having students walk out and do all manner of things that are looking at our government. Um, it makes sometimes for me it makes teaching hard, like especially in our content areas for social studies. It makes for me it makes it sometimes a little. I don't want to say depressing because that feels hard. That feels too hard. But it presents a unique challenge when I see the world today, and sometimes the things that I'm teaching, especially as it relates to civics, the things that I'm teaching them, for example, you know, separation of powers or checks and balances, and we see sometimes the world we live in doesn't apply by those rules, that the Constitution, that we tell you we teach the Constitution, and yet the Constitution in the world we live in today has come under attack. And at times it's been kind of beaten down.
Hmm.
Right. And so there are times when this job, like for me, when I think about like the things that this job that I don't kind of love about this job sometimes, like that for me is something that's kind of up there, at least lately. Like I find it an emotional drain.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I don't know if other teachers can
And
feel that.
I think too, it speaks to our discipline. I wouldn't want to be anything other than in this day and age, in the environment that we're in.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to teach anything other than social studies
yeah.
because there is just so many things going on. The content presents itself. You know, when you said attack earlier, we still laugh about 2 years ago when we were out on COVID,
Sure.
and we were in having our little staff meeting with the social studies department. Just, and someone here was had a split screen, I think it was, but was watching the
What's
CNN, and all of a sudden they start broadcasting the attack. And our government right over here across the bridge, and again, what better event for social studies teachers? And Google chimes in, hey, you mentioned this. And then
these old y'all?
and we see this moment in history going right there. Then when we try to, relay that feeling to our students, some
Yeah,
of them really understand
yeah,
how eventful that was for us as teachers.
yeah,
To witness this and now come and try to teach you the history behind this and why this be happening. But then again, it shouldn't be happening. The dichotomy of the different administrations
yeah,
that have been and all of the atmosphere they create and
yeah,
listen to watching history unfold.
yeah.
So I think, like I said earlier, our content, the discipline areas you know,
Do you think math and art teachers feel the same thing?
no,
I doubt it
I
very
doubt it.
seriously. They can't ask their class questions. To ask classes questions like
Questions,
this.
yes.
Why is it that Charlie Kirk got his flag exploded half staff and Jesse Jackson didn't?
Mhm.
Right. Why
Okay,
is
now let's
why
have a
can't Jesse
conversation.
Jackson
Mhm.
be in
Yeah,
turn state?
y'all told me that Donald Trump wasn't racist. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. What flags are? You got all these pictures with Jesse Jackson. You got all these pictures with Muhammad Ali. Got all this really cool stuff. Now we got to help our kids understand what hypocrisy is.
Mhm.
Mm.
Now we get to explain the word hypocrisy. Yes, and our government has its foibles, this, that, the third. True. But here's the definition of hypocrisy. And this is why we're teaching you critical thinking. So you can see and discern for yourself. On the one hand, oh, they wasn't protesting January 6th. They was just a walk in the park. Oh, but if you protest ICE, you might get killed.
Mhm.
Right.
So our job is to make sure that our kids can figure this out and as best they can because hell, I'm struggling trying to get it all figured out.
Mhm.
But we are giving them tools to at least think about this stuff in a way where it ought to make sense for them as they grow.
What do you think teachers like? What is the most important role for teachers in general, whether it be black educators or just even educators in general? What's the most important thing for educators to keep in mind as we enter this phase in history right now where
Just
we are?
just stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Just stay out of the way. Keep your opinion to yourself. Just stay out of the way. Let the kids figure it out. Give them the tools they need to get stuff figured out and stay the hell out of the way. Stay out of the way.
Mm.
That's all we got to do. Just don't be the distraction. Let the kids freely figure this out. Create an environment where it's okay to make a mistake. Create an environment where it's okay to be critical and skeptical. Create it and stay out of the way.
Mhm. And I think we, definitely at Gwynn Park,
Yeah.
promote an environment of inclusion of everyone. So everyone's ideas matter.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying, take this time in class, in this school, to broaden your thinking. You know, uh, challenge, authority. Challenge what you don't believe in.
Mhm.
That's all. We are really striving for. Be critical. Everything is not as the pictures you see, are not definitely when you start talking about what the situation of our government is right now. What we see and hear is definitely different from what we really experience. And you can put rose-colored glasses on anything, put lipstick on a pig, and
The
it,
audio has to be there.
it's so yes, that's very important that we again provide kids that space
Yeah.
to where they can be wrong. I like that and again as educators we don't know everything. And as I said earlier, I think black educators, especially those at our school, we often speak from experience, speak from um, times and periods in this country and even in our own lives where things were not going right. And look at us now. So you can fail and come back. Getting a bad grade is not the end of the world. You know, uh, you're going to have to listen to somebody if you're ever going to gain anything. You never learn anything. Your eyes and your ears are closed and your mouth is open. Close your mouth is the only way you can learn something. And, I think we do a good job of allowing kids to fail and be in a space where they might be a little uncomfortable.
I think it's also just super important to show, I think it can is that we we ourselves are not that there's such a desire to be as adults to be to guide where they're headed, but also to be three-dimensional.
Mhm.
That we are not, we're not perfect
Mhm.
either.
Mhm.
That I think the only way to model, um, the only way to give them, to hopefully give them a sense of humility and resilience is to model that as well, and to show like, hey, I made a mistake here. To be fully transparent, and to at least to a certain, to some level, to say, I like, there are things that I missed, that I made a mistake, and I'm gonna make it right, or so on and so forth. Like, kids are learning from us even when they're not doing
Mhm.
content,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? Even when we're not teaching the content, they learn from us regardless of whether we're in front of the room teaching content or walking down each aisle, or whether we're sitting at our desk. They are still learning. They're still incorporating everything we're doing.
Mhm.
And I think, and my hope is that all teachers keep that in mind. I imagine some do and some do not. But kids learn from us every single moment while we're in there in
Mhm.
that class. And we have to be careful because they can learn the good things we want as much as they can learn the things that, right,
Mhm.
that can be detrimental too. And so I don't know. I just think it's super important that we don't have to be, um, we don't have to be perfect, and it doesn't. And while we are a sense of authority in a room, that it's not, it doesn't have to be authoritarian.
Mhm.
If there's a difference, it, like it can be, we are in charge. We are a you know we have the ability to make decisions and so on and so forth. But I don't know, the way I like to do it. I want learning to be a collaborative thing. I feel like that's when it works best.
Mhm. And I think a lot of times, you know, when we harken back to the old days, there was too much of this individuality among teachers, my class. And, teachers took pride in, only five people being able to pass their class. That model, I think,
Yeah.
definitely has to go, and again, you're so rigid in, your concept of what a student should be and what you as a teacher. A lot of times, we lose a lot of kids uh, because of that. And I mean, not to brag, but everybody can't be us. And I'm not just talking about the three of us, but I'm talking about, engaged, purposeful,
Yeah.
mindful, it, educate.
Right.
There's too many of us that we have some in our school that they just show up. They're,
There's some in every school.
they're
Some in
everywhere.
every school.
They're
Yeah.
everywhere. And,
Right.
and
And I get it,
yeah.
actually. I Even if you feel jaded, I like, I can understand where it maybe it comes from. All right. I feel like we're maybe almost at a good stopping point here for right now.
Mhm.
But if you got this far in the podcast, first of all, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, but yeah, we hope to bring more content. We hope to bring more uh, safe space conversations for educators, for parents of educators, for mentors, coaches, just people in this space that are dedicated to the things that we care about. And again, hopefully, if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and share this. We look to keep doing this, and yeah, we hope you like it. Any final words, gentlemen?
More to come. More
More
to
to come.
come.
Yes,
More
And
to
indeed.
and
come.
and, and trust me, we will be more provocative.
Right, right,
It's just in my blood.
right. You are now officially warned. Good morning.
We're just getting warmed up.
We just getting started here. All right. All right. So this is the Three Educators podcast for Coach White, Mr. Ingram. I am Mr. Savoy. We are signing
Yes.
off.
Hey,
Have a great day.
and,